So welcome to this week's episode of Leadership Soundbites with RokoM, Michelle, and our special guest this week, Christopher Mack. Christopher, I adore you, by the way. Adore you.
Same.
So Christopher, thank you. Christopher is, and I'm reading it, the Executive Director of Strategy and Business Development at Sutter Health, and you can clearly see Sutter Health right there. He's also on the board of Direct Trust. And so we're super excited to talk to you this week. And it's a really powerful topic on the power of authenticity. So I do want to kick us off with a quote that we all talked about that we landed on. It's going to guide whatever our conversation may be with us today. It's the privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. And when I think about that, and what we talked when we first started off is around authenticity, there's, I'm sure, a number of different perspectives. But if we think about it, there's a perspective of who we are, right? To be our authentic selves as we step into whatever role we have in life. But the other part of it is that we have a responsibility to create the space for other people to do the same. And so in thinking about that is like, it's like put on your oxygen mask first before you help other people. I think in order for us to create that space, we need to be true to us and be authentic, and then others can step into that space as well. So welcome, and what are your thoughts?
Thank you, Michelle and Roko, for having me. I couldn't agree more, and what a powerful quote, right? It's interesting. I will sort of respond to that in both a personal and professional way. The personal way is my journey and my desire to be as authentic as possible really starts with my upbringing. My parents raised us to be who we are. I've got 3 other siblings, and one of my siblings is disabled, and there's no getting around being disabled. You are who you are, and I love my brother for everything he is. And then around 18 or so, I figured out I was gay, and as I headed into my professional journey, 22 years at Sutter and 23 in healthcare. My dad was out on a walk with me one day and said, I want you to remember something. We love you so much, and no matter what you do, never hide behind who you are and be yourself, because people will love you for who you are. And I was very lucky. You know, there's many people who don't get that level of love from their parents or acceptance. And my own father said, you be who you are and they will love you. So I've always, even in my sort of junior days of being a leader, I always, even when I had mishaps, I was always myself. And I think that's what it made it easy for leaders who've helped shape me, and there have been many, to say, okay, pause, take a look at who you are, and is this the person you want to be representing yourself as? And I've been very thankful along the way.
Yeah. You know, I thank you so much for sharing that personal story. I just love it. I just love it. And, you know, what stood out to me, with your dad's words is really framing who you are in a positive light. And then when you said, if it's not the person you want to be, then change it to when you want to be. And Michelle and I have said this over and over and over in our podcast. You really are looking at yourself and saying, is this the behavior I want? Is this the leader I want to be? Is this the person I want to be? And if it's not, you have the power to change it. And that's, I just love that.
I want to, obviously I have tears, holy crap. And thank you. But I want to call something out, because I think when we talk about that, right, your father created this incredibly safe space to empower you to, be you. I mean, it's not, you're the best one qualified for that, right? But when you go into the workspace, it can be a scary proposition if people are not like your father and haven't created that space for you to step into it. Yep. And so I have to wonder, what's that like? And what was that like as you stepped in. To your point, you were 18 years old. You were just starting the journey of professional career and development.
You know, Michelle, I think you and RokoM embody some of these, in fact, most of the traits of allowing people to have that space. And so I'm deeply appreciative for that. And leaders that you've worked with, people you've had on the podcast, and people we know mutually have also created those spaces. But in the earlier days, I can recall a very specific story or time in my career. I worked, it was, late 90s, I worked for a department within a large healthcare organization, and I brought some stuff to a potluck, and no one would eat it. And I was like, what the heck? And the turns out about 2 hours after the potluck, somebody said, oh, someone started a rumor that you have HIV, and they said not to eat the stuff that you brought.
Oh, geez.
And that was sort of an eye opener for me, that like, wow, this is, while my parents raised me to be who I am, this is the real world. And I didn't shy away from it. I ended up being, over the years, I've been an advocate for minorities, including, people of color and trans individuals, which I think require a level of visibility that they don't have even in today's world. So I think those things along the way have helped shape who I am. But I will say there has been a few leaders who've not only encouraged me to be who I am, but have actually also paused me or helped me pause to reflect on those behaviors that I desired to have, but maybe was displaying them in a wrong way. And there's a CEO within the organization at Sutter Health who's still there. And she had a one-on-one conversation with me and said, I know what your intent is, but you're not actually coming out with, your intent is not matching your behavior. So this level of authenticity, authentic leadership and self-awareness is incredibly important.
Yeah, it takes so much courage. Yeah. I was just gonna say, it just takes so much courage on your part, on an individual's part, just to stand up and really, live it, speak it, be in the moment with it. And I'm so glad that we're having this conversation about authenticity. And I had a similar situation, clearly not as, mine was much more trivial than your situation. When I worked in the trucking industry, went on a sales call with the owner of the business, and they made it a golf trip, and we were in the South, and the place that we were golfing at was an all men's. Women couldn't golf, and I had to stand up and say, listen, if I'm not able to golf, you two aren't golfing. And because it's not right that I'm your equal, and I'm here on this business trip. And the client that we were meeting, who was a member of this golf course, actually went in and spoke to the management and said, listen, I need this person be allowed to golf, because and they did. But it took her, and I was really nervous, because you never know what's going to happen. And thankfully my boss at the time, the owner of the trucking company, stood up and said, if she can't golf, then it's not right. But it was a scary time. But you have to be, but it took strength. You had to know, at least for me, I believed so firmly in this, I'm your equal. I'm not, it's not about male, female, and this is wrong, And,
RokoM, would you mind, I don't know if, would you mind if I shared a quote that's one of my favorite?
Yes, please.
To that? So it's from the late John Lewis, American politician and civil rights activist. It is, we need someone who will stand up and speak out for the people who need help, for people who are being discriminated against. And it doesn't matter whether they're Black, white, Latino, Asian, or Native American, whether they are straight or gay, Muslim, Christian, or Jews. It actually sits right up here in front of me,
Love it.
Framed above my desk. And it is one of the things it's sort of pivotal to my career.
Yes. And it doesn't have to be big moments. Sometimes it's subtle things like that. Like when I came home and talked about it, some of my friends actually said, well, it's not that big of a deal that the club was an all men's club. So what did you expect? And it's like, no, but then that business meeting shouldn't have been booked there.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
It should have, if you knew you were going to have male and female people participate, then it should. So it can be very subtle sometimes. And to where people don't even realize that there's, a discrimination happening right there. I mean, just if I would have just sat in the golf cart and rode around with them,
right?
How did that make me look from a perspective? If I'm their equal, if I'm supposed to be their equal, but then I'm not getting to partake. I think one of the ladies at Sutter once told me, diversity is like getting asked to the dance, but inclusion is getting asked to dance. Right. And that it just always stuck with me. And that's how I felt in that moment. I felt, okay, there was I got asked to the dance, but I wasn't getting asked to dance.
Yep. So true.
That's true. Yeah. I hadn't thought of it that way, but yeah, you're right. Christopher, I want to go back to what you were talking about and the feedback that you got from a leader in the organization around basically congruence, right? Is that how you're wanting to come across maybe is not that way, or the words that you're saying don't match with the actions you're taking, whatever it may be. What did you do differently?
Well, a lot. It was also at the same time that I had a 360 Lominger done. So there was quite a bit of feedback that I was sort of cataloging. And I asked this person if she would sit with me because her opinion really mattered to me. And I said, I received some of this feedback. I know you were one of the participants. I know it's anonymous, but I can assume that you took this. What other feedback do you have for me? I also was receiving some executive coaching at that moment. And so I prepped with my executive coach, then went and talked with her. And it was interesting. I went into the meeting thinking something totally different. There was a narrative running in my head of like, this person doesn't like me. This person's not a fan of mine. And then when I sat down with her, and this was also encouraged by my boss. My boss said, go sit with her, see what she says and see what sat down with her. And it was so opposite. She's a huge fan of mine. She was a supporter. And she said, listen, some of the things you do, you have a way in which you're delivering it that is just not, it's not self-aware.
Yeah.
And so I guess the other point, Michelle, is, I've worked with many leaders over the years. And I've been fortunate to not only see leadership in action, but leadership gone wrong. And I think taking a step back and listening to that feedback from this particular CEO, it was super helpful to also think, where did I learn that behavior? And what do I want to show my teams?
What did you notice? I mean, because obviously, and from what you're talking about is there's a lot of changes that happened. So you had a 360. I'm assuming based on what you said or asked for back then. By the way, it's super brave to ask for feedback, especially from someone that the narrative is they don't like me. Okay. So let's go right into this when I believe that I'm going to somebody who doesn't like me. So I'm going to get ready. My armor's on, everything else to get this blast of stuff so it doesn't cripple me. Okay. But what's the feedback now, or what's the subsequent feedback you would have gotten? Okay. Because you're a leader on constant development, your own personal development and stuff. What's changed?
I think what's changed the most is I let that narrative take charge and really take control of me. And rather than understanding, and again, this came from some of the folks I got feedback from, including this individual. They told me, you have a seat at the table. You have a voice. We want to hear your voice. Why are you making up this narrative that like no one wants to hear it? So I think the biggest thing and probably the most transformative was actually believing and understanding that who I am as a leader, who people see me as, is enough. And I don't have to do I don't have to behave a certain way to get people to like me. I think that was the destructive behavior that I carried from years of watching poor leadership. That was destructive and distracting.
We can be our own worst enemies sometimes with that narrative that we tell ourselves. And, you know, so as other leaders listen to this podcast or others listen to this podcast, you know, just summing up what you're saying is what I'm hearing is the advice is calm that narrative and go to the source and get feedback and frame a new narrative that's based on probably what facts are, what the truth really is about what the situation is.
The other thing that comes to mind for me, okay, is that if you think back to sitting in your body while you were going with the story, while you were up speaking with people, engaging with people, whatever it was, I imagine there had to be some physical clues that you weren't sitting as your true self.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Even the way in which I carried my body.
Yeah.
And you could see, I did some video work with my executive coach. You could see when I got smaller. Yeah. You could see, you know, so I think if I could offer advice to anyone is if you can get an executive coach, get an executive coach. Number two is watch these podcasts because every leader you've had has shared almost the same feedback. And lastly, if you can't have access to an executive coach, as much learning as you can do and reading books or listening to books, it is certainly helpful. And you know, one last thing, Michelle, is I think, or Roko, I think when the first time a leader invested in a coach for me, this particular leader said, I want to get you an executive coach. And I said, oh, I don't need that. I'm doing fine. My EOW scores are really good. I don't need that. And this particular leader said, you do need it because you've got potential and I want you to accept it and then listen to the coach. And the first session with my coach was a disaster because I thought I was like trying to prove myself. And she said, slow down and listen because you've got so much potential, but you're this is why you're with me.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I think a lot of it, you built the walls up, right? I'm good. And I can imagine, you know, beyond the potluck incident, I'm sure there were other similar themed things that happened that took place, which is where the narrative comes in, which is where we put the walls up to protect ourselves so we can continue on our path. And it takes courage and feedback and letting people in to be able to go, you know what? That's not serving me. Yeah. And it's not serving the people that I engage with. Yeah. So I appreciate this. I know we have a limited time.
But wait, don't close it out yet.
Oh my God, Roko.
Yet. Don't close it out.
Oh my God. Roko's like, wait a minute. I want to say something else.
Okay, Christopher. So tell us what have been some of the benefits, what both personally and professionally for you that you've seen since you've been on this journey of becoming your authentic self?
Yeah. So couple things I'll do real quick, Michelle. I know we're time. Personally, I have two kids. I've got two Black kids who I am raising to be strong individual contributors of society and in touch with who they are. Mm-hmm. This journey has framed me for success, for being a successful parent. Mm-hmm. And pausing even in the times where I have to be present and can't be, it's really helped shape me. I think the second thing is it's helped me help my teams, whether they're directly reporting to me or in a dotted line. It's helped me help them be better leaders. Mm-hmm. And I'm so thankful for what it's yielded.
Awesome.
Thank you. Thank you.
Huge
Okay,
fan
now
of your work, you guys. Keep it up, and thank you so much for
Oh,
having me.
we're not done.
Yeah,
And
we're not done
listed the 3 things. So here's the last thing that I want is if you can pick one thing, Christopher, one thing that you want people to walk away with, what is it?
Yeah, it's that we all carry skeletons in our closet.
Mhm.
We all carry a narrative that that you weren't picked first on the soccer team when you were a kid.
Mhm.
You weren't good at sports. You weren't good at a music instrument. Your parents wanted you to do better in math, whatever it might be. And if you can take time in your leadership journey to understand that you are good, and that if you can present your most authentic self, and you can show others that they also can be their authentic self, no matter if you're in business development or if you're in strategy or if you're in direct patient care, whatever industry you're in, that you can perform better, and so can your teams, by being completely authentic.
Thank you. Roko.
Yeah.
So first, let me thank you. Thank you for
Welcome.
sharing this topic with us and modeling what authentic leadership is like and being true to yourself. The one thing that I think I took away from is it takes courage,
Mhm.
but it's worth it. Invest in yourself because
Yeah.
you are worth it.
Yeah.
So invest in yourself to be that authentic self so you can be as happy and live the best life, both professionally and personally.
Yep, that's it. I fully am fully aligned to that, Roko.
The thing that I would say is one of those is for people that just don't know where to start, right? So if your authentic self is here and you're way over here, what's the journey look like to get there? And I think part of it is start being aware of your physical body. That is there tension? Is there, or do you feel relaxed and comfortable? And I think that's one of the clues that we can give ourselves into whether or not we're stepping closer to who we truly are. The world needs the variety and the diversity. That's how we get better. And so don't shortchange your contribution to what we can be and do.
That's right.
So powerful.
Thank you so much. This week's episode, I'm going to cry again. Leadership Soundbites. Oh my God. With Christopher, and this is the first, I've not done this twice now. Christopher, Roko, and Michelle, please like, share, subscribe. Until next time, we appreciate your comments and topics, and thank you again.
Thank you. All right. Bye.